Ah yes, the Blood Eagle. That spine-tingling Viking execution method said to involve slicing open a man's back, cracking his ribs outward like wings, and yanking out his lungs so they flapped in the wind like a tortured pigeon. Dramatic, horrifying, and most likely, never happened. Let's sharpen the axe on this legend with 4 key reasons why the Blood Eagle probably belongs in the fiction section of Norse history. 1. The sources are about as reliable as a drunk skald. The Blood Eagle is mentioned in only a few sagas, Heimskringla, Orkneyinga saga, and a couple of Latin texts, but here's the thing. They were all written centuries after the alleged events. That's like writing about the Battle of Hastings, based entirely on overheard pub gossip. Add in the fact that many of these sources were penned by Christian writers who weren't exactly Team Viking, and suddenly it starts to look less like history and more like a medieval smear campaign. Because what better way to make pagans look bad than by turning them into rib-snapping ritualists? 2. No bones, no blood, no evidence. Despite combing through thousands of Viking-age burial sites, not a single skeleton has shown signs of the kind of trauma this execution would cause. No burst ribs, no filleted spines, no signs someone's lungs were aired out like laundry. And the Vikings weren't shy about dramatic burials. They burned ships, buried chieftains with full arsenals, and occasionally tossed in a horse for good measure. But no one seems to have received the full eagle treatment. If this had been a regular ritual, or even an occasional statement piece, surely we'd have found one poor soul who looked like they'd been opened like a scroll. 3. It might just be poetry on a bad day. Many scholars believe the Blood Eagle may have been a poetic metaphor, not a literal act. Norse poetry is famously cryptic, full of kennings and coded phrasing. One common idea is that an eagle carved on his back might have just meant he died messily, not Bjorn the Butcher went full origami on his ribcage. But somewhere along the line, a well-meaning monk read that and thought, literal eagle, spine first. And thus a metaphor may have taken flight straight into the imaginations of medieval horror writers and 21st century TV producers. 4. Anatomically possible, but should you? Now, here's the odd part. Modern researchers ran the numbers, and it turns out, yes, the Blood Eagle is technically possible. If you had a strong stomach, some decent knowledge of butchery, and a particularly sturdy victim, you could perform it. But it would have taken considerable effort, precision, and a disturbingly calm executioner. And the victim? They'd likely die from shock or blood loss well before you got to the part with the fluttering lungs. So yes, you could do it. But like eating a shoe or running a marathon in chainmail, just because you can doesn't mean anyone ever did. So what's the verdict? The Blood Eagle is one of those legendary practices that sounds just plausible enough to survive and just gruesome enough to go viral. But likely to have actually happened? Maybe once tops if someone was really having a bad day. And let's be honest, whether it was ever real or just a medieval scare story, the Blood Eagle soared into legend. One gory metaphor at a time. The Vikings might have raided your village. They would never raid your spine. Probably, maybe, but probably not. Cheerio.